Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from. I'm so excited to have you here and join us for our April broadcast. I would love to know where everyone is joining from, so please comment in the chat which country you are currently tuning in from. That way we can say hello to you and welcome you for our April broadcast. I'm going to give everyone a minute just to let us know where they're tuning in from. All right, I'm not seeing any comments coming in yet, but I do know that we have a lot of you joining today, and typically we have individuals joining from the Philippines, from Nigeria, the UK, maybe the UAE. So I'm very excited to have all of you joining today, and hopefully I'll be able to see your comments coming in soon because I would love to give you a special shout out or say hello. I know most of you join each month, so if you have joined us before, welcome back. For those of you who might not have joined yet or may not know me, my name is Courtney Wilson, and I am the Associate Manager of our International Recruitment Team here at Health Carousel International. We're so glad that you're here, and if you tuned in last month, you may have recognized that we kind of took a break from our regular formatting. We did have a special session that gave a breakdown on U.S. taxes with our partners, EY. We had such a great conversation, and we are so excited to have our full lineup of segments back this month to support you on your journey to the United States. So we are going to celebrate our amazing nurses. We are going to dive into life in the United States. We've got a lot of good content ahead for this broadcast. So definitely continue to submit your questions in the chat, and we will try our best to answer them along the way or do a live question and answer at the end. We are going to go ahead and get started with our first segment. So if you know her, we all love her. Her name is Presley. She is our International Employee Supervisor, and she's going to help us celebrate our Employee of the Month. So I'm going to welcome Presley, my colleague, in order for her to do the segment. How's everything going, Presley?
Hi, Courtney. Everything is going on great. What about yourself?
Oh, perfect. It's beautiful, beautiful day here in Cincinnati.
Absolutely. And it's always a joy to be part of this broadcast, especially when we get to recognize the amazing healthcare professionals in our program. Again, my name is Presley Owusu, and I'm excited to be here with you all today as we celebrate our March Employees of the Month. So every month, we take the time to recognize incredible international healthcare professionals who are making a lasting impact in their workplaces and living out the values of Health Carousel with excellence and heart. Before we reveal this month's winners, I want to take a time to recognize all of our amazing nominees for March. Please join me in congratulating Annie M., Cesarina Meg G., Lawrence Dave A., Solomon B., Junelle T., Jodeth S., Hazel N., and Bibilin T. You were all nominated for your outstanding care, professionalism, and the positive energy you bring to your teams. We are incredibly proud of them and everything that they do in their communities. And now, let's get some drum roll, please. I am thrilled to announce that our March Employees of the Month are Cesarina May G and Bibilin T. Congratulations to the both of them. Now, both of them unfortunately could not join us, but we would like to share more about each of our Employee of the Month for March. First up is Cesarina May. She is currently on her assignment in Massachusetts. She shared that one of the reasons she chose healthcare cell is because even during retrogression, our team never gave up on her. She's now thriving in the US, giving her full effort every day and embracing her new life with independence, patience, and a purpose. This award, she says, is not just recognition, it's motivation. In fact, Cesarina wasn't able to join us live today, but she did send in a short message that I'd like to share with you all in hopes that it will give you all encouragement. Here's what she had to say. Hi, guys. First, I would like to thank Health Carousel for the opportunity to share my experiences and learnings here in the US. My first trip for those professionals my first tip, for those healthcare professionals who are bound to the US are the following. One, if you're not driving, you should learn on how to drive ASAP, especially parallel parking. The number of years of your driving experience will be counted by some insurance companies and will help you avail a lower car insurance rate. Two, at work, honesty is the best policy. Employers greatly appreciate if you are honest that you don't know and you are eager to learn new things. Do not hesitate to ask questions whenever you are in doubt. 3. Make a habit to speak English all the time. Some people really appreciate that they are able to understand what you're talking about and what they feel like you are not talking behind their backs. Tip 4. Don't cry over spilled milk. There is no point in being upset or regretting something that has already happened and cannot be undone. It's a reminder to move forward and not dwell on mistakes or misfortunes, as crying over them won't change the outcome. And the last tip is be grateful every day and pray. Thank you for sharing that with us, Cesarina. Now, Bibelin's journey is equally inspiring. Since arriving in the US, she's grown from someone who once struggled with self-confidence into a strong, capable leader. She credits her transformation to the opportunities and support she's received along the way. And she hopes her story will inspire others to keep pushing forward no matter their fears. Unfortunately, Bibelin is also unable to join us live today, but we still want to take this moment to recognize her accomplishments and say congratulations. We're so proud to have both of these amazing nurses part of the Health Carousel family. Now, Courtney, back to you.
Thank you so much, Presley, and congratulations to our winners. After hearing all of the tips that Cesarina had for everyone joining today, I think maybe she should have been a motivational speaker. She had some great words of encouragement and definitely some good tips. I think, in all my years of driving, I still have not perfected my parallel parking. So I think no matter how long you try, it's okay if you're not able to parallel park. I try to avoid it, and you typically can. But congratulations to Cesarina. Congratulations to Biblin. It looks like our chat got turned back on, so I love seeing everyone wish them a congratulations as well. I do want to give a couple shout outs just to those that are joining. I can see that Festus is joining us from Nigeria. We have Judith joining us from Kenya. Ernest wanted to wish a congratulations to both employees of the month, and we have Isaac from Ghana. So thank you again for joining, and thank you, Presley, for your segment on celebrating our nurses for the Employee of the Month.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So we are going to move into our next segment. We are going to move into the Life in the USA segment. So when you think about preparing for your move to the United States, you're probably thinking about a lot and you might feel overwhelmed. But one major factor is to have a plan on managing your money. It's something that you're going to be continuously working on your budget plan, and that's what we're here to help. So you might be thinking about, what's my rent going to cost? How much are groceries going to cost? What does transportation look like? And how am I going to be saving during all of this? So budgeting is definitely a key part in feeling financially stable and confident in moving to the United States. So you're not alone. As part of our full circle of support, our team is here to help you understand how the U.S. expenses work, how to create a budget that fits your lifestyles and goals and allows you to save so that way you're feeling financially stable. I'm going to welcome my colleague, Joel. He is part of our international employee supervising team, and he's going to kind of walk us through a high-level overview of how to budget in the United States. Hi, Joel. How are you doing today?
Great, great. How are you, Courtney? And how is everybody?
I'm
Really
good.
excited
I'm
for
doing well.
today.
Yeah, I'm
Really
excited
excited for
too.
today. Yep, as an international employee supervisor, as Courtney mentioned, I'm part of one of those teams who offer that full circle of support to all our healthcare professionals throughout their stay with Healthcare Cell. My team in particular works with the healthcare professionals once they are here in the United States, and we do regular check-ins with all our healthcare professionals. And like Courtney mentioned, I would say by our experience in our team, I would say 99% of the time in our check ins, this topic about budgeting has come up. And I think that's a sign for everybody how important this topic really is. And me being an immigrant myself, this is something that I wish I had thought more about when I started my journey coming here to the US, because it would have really helped me to really plan out this new journey of mine. So, like I said, I'm really excited for today and hope to share some good insights to everyone. Okay, so a good budget to begin with starts with understanding two things: your income and your expenses. Now, your income, I would say, is the best word I can think of is pretty consistent. It's you know your hours work, and you probably can estimate really well what the money that's coming in every week or every month. However, in terms of your expenses, that can be variable, but at the same time, it's controllable. And controlling your expenses and really tracking your expenses, what's going to help you to know where your money is really going. Now, to track those expenses, the big buckets that you really have to think of is your wants and your needs, right? You have to distinguish what those wants are and what those needs are. That is very crucial. Like as you see in the slide, some of the ones that we've listed here is like entertainment expenses, dining out, going out, watching movies outside. Now in our lives nowadays, subscriptions is one of those things that we spend on, like very liberally sometimes, right? Getting Netflix subscriptions. When you come here to the United States, you'll hear a lot about Amazon Prime. There's just a lot of things that could occupy our expense reports, like our own personal expense reports, and we don't know that it's just going to blow up without even knowing it. On the needs part, we all know that's housing, food, and healthcare. So we need to make sure that we are aware of these two big buckets. A budget is not about restricting yourself. So it's not about like completely eradicating the want section, right? It is about making intentional choices that align with your goals. Uh, for example, if you track your spending for a month and you realize that when you dine out, you're spending like what, $300 for dining out for the whole month. And then when you look at your grocery bill, you're spending $200. Maybe that's the time for you to consider, maybe I'm going out and eating at restaurants too much. Maybe I need to think about, making my own meals at home, or maybe eating at home more often than not. So just really, like I said, being intentional about these choices and knowing these two buckets and being aware of it, and not letting any of these buckets get out of control. Now, there's a lot of budgeting methods out there. Like just if you Google budgeting methods, you probably see a lot of ideas. Now we're going to share one simple method right here. It's called the 50-30-20 budgeting method. Now, it is not an end all be all budgeting method. Like I said, you'll find a lot of other methods out there, but this approach is pretty simple. It's also pretty flexible. It's one of the easiest and I would say very effective method to budget your money. So with this approach, you try to divide your income into three categories. So the biggest part is, of course, the needs part, right? we'll say that's around half of your money goes to your needs, and your needs include rent, of course, groceries, utilities, transportation, and insurance. Uh, Rent, of course, that's for housing. Groceries for your daily lifestyle. Utilities is for electricity, water, and maybe this is something new for some of you, but gas is also part of utilities, because in some areas you need gas to heat your home. So, and also transportation. So may it be public transportation, or may it be your uh, monthly contribution to your car loan. So that's for your needs. 30%, we say, it goes to your wants, which, like I mentioned a while ago, this has to do with, eating out in restaurants, going out for movies, right? Uh, Going out on a 3-day holiday, on a long weekend. Those are all wants. And some of your hobbies as well. I'm pretty sure, like, all of you have your own personal hobbies. I myself, I do a lot of sports. So, membership fees in some of the clubs is one of my entertainment expenses. So try to limit that to around 30%. And then the last part is has to do with with the financial goals. So financial goals has to do about savings, emergency funds, and retirement contributions. Savings is really important, of course. We all want that money that's set aside if knock on wood, something unintended happens. uh, and then there's also retirement, which is planning for the future. So really focus on these three buckets. Like I said, it's pretty simple. It covers in general the big buckets in your daily life here in the US. It's also very flexible. So these are like, think of it as like levers that you can adjust, right? 50 can be 45, right? Or 55. 30 can be 25 or 35. So there's like I said, there's a lot of flexibility with this method. So other than this one, in analyzing your budgeting, the next thing we're discussing are actually about the categories of
And Joel, I just want to
your
interject
budget.
really quick.
Yeah.
I think a good reminder too, just going over this. I know when speaking with our candidates, I know rent and utilities might be paid differently in different areas of the world. So something really good to keep in mind when you're looking at this 50, 30, 20 budgeting method is your rent and your utilities. So under that 50% bucket, those are going to be monthly expenses. So in the US, your rent and your utilities are going to be paid monthly. Again, I know it might be paid differently where you're currently living. So that's also a good factor to keep in mind when you're starting to think about your budgeting method that you're going to use once you're over in the United States. And just a reminder too, make sure that you are submitting questions if you have any questions about any of the information that Joel's covering today. Again, since we have Joel joining us, we want to be able to utilize him and answer those questions if you do have them. So make sure you're dropping them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them either throughout Joel's presentation, or we can always do a live Q&A with Joel at the end. All right, back to you, Joel.
That's a great input, Courtney, because one of the things that I didn't touch on, which you mentioned, is about the frequency of these expenses, right? Sometimes the rent bill comes in monthly, and sometimes it comes at a different date than your utility bill. I think that emphasizes even more why we need to budget and why we need to plan. Because if we don't
Right.
have a budget and a plan, when this bill comes up and you didn't plan for it, you'll get surprised. Oh no, I don't have money to pay for my electricity, or like
Right.
I don't have money to pay for my insurance. So it is really imperative, to have that plan, to have that regular plan. So then like, okay, I have this budget for this item, and then it comes, like, let's say on the 20th of the month, right? So at least you're not surprised by any and all, like, expenses that come through your table. So
Right.
really great,
Yeah.
great input, Courtney.
Thanks, Joel.
All right. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss as well are the major budgeting categories. Okay. So we talked about bucketing your expenses in terms of needs and wants. Another way to look at your expenses is through these 4 big buckets. Okay. So I'm going to go through it one by one. The first thing is about fixed expenses. These are, I would say, the essential costs that are very consistent. They basically stay the same, right? And And like I said, these are really essential. So if you're going to prioritize all your expenses that money needs to go to a certain bucket, then this is the bucket that I would recommend. So fixed expenses has to do with rent or mortgage, uh, insurance, childcare or education costs if you have childcare, or if you have dependents coming with you, and childcare is important as well. And then loan payments, most often than not, is for your car payments. Now, I mentioned something about insurance. I haven't mentioned this yet, but one of the things for me personally that was eye opening was the insurance costs. I think when you come here to the United States, you will realize very quickly that insurance is sort of very essential part of our lives. Like healthcare insurance, you go to a doctor, they would need your insurance. You get a car, you can't drive a car without car insurance. So insurance is everywhere. So in that sense, it becomes really essential to plan for that. So there are healthcare insurance costs. There will be car insurance costs. When you rent, there will be renters insurance costs. So make sure to research that on your own. There's a lot of information about that. Just when you over the internet, and just make sure that you plan those out, because those are, like I said, very consistent expenses, but essential ones that you have to plan for. The second ones are also necessities, but they're much more variable. So these are utilities, groceries, and also transportation. Now, utilities, we've already talked about. It's electricity, water, and gas. Okay, don't forget about gas, especially if you're going to a cold weather state. So utilities, that can vary depending on where you are in the country, right? If you're further down south where it gets really hot in the summer, then you'll spend a lot on air conditioning. If you're like on the northern part of the country, you would need a lot of heating, which then would require a lot of gas expenses. So just be aware of that when you try to estimate your utilities expenses. Groceries, of course, will differ from place to place. It depends on availability. It depends on where you are in the states. And then transportation will depend, of course, on your choices in terms of transportation. Some of the healthcare professionals that I've been with, they basically do three things. They have their own car. They either do 100% using their car, they can do 100% doing public transportation, or they can do mixed. So depending on your choices, your transportation costs will also vary. And you have to include as well, parking costs, if that's, if you're in a city, or if you're in a location that that expense is pretty much is very significant. And there's also gas, of course, for transportation. So those two are the big ones. And then later on the third bucket is about discretionary spending. So we're talking about wants again, right? At the very beginning. So discretionary spending, from the word itself, it's upon your discretion if you want to spend on these items. So dining out, subscriptions, shopping for clothes, things like that. So things that I would say not very essential, but it could be essential depending on your life situation. So I did get a few questions in terms of like the cost of living by person or by family. Now, unfortunately, I can't really answer that, specifically by person or by family, because there's a lot of variabilities by location, right? So depending on where you are, which part of the country you are in, it will determine your rent. It will determine, like I said, your utilities. If you have dependents, if you have kids, it will, depending on where you are, it will determine how much you will spend for childcare. It will determine how much you spend on education. So there are also choices with regards to children in terms of like, do you want them to do extracurricular activities within the school or outside the school? There's just a lot of variables. I guess the best answer I could give to all of you in terms of like the specifics is when you have ideas on where you want to go to in the US, you have your assignee with you. It could be your IDA, IPA, or even your IES, talk to them about it. Again, we talk about that full circle of support. You can talk to your assignee about that specific location, and you can discuss specifically about that location, that facility, or that, even that specific city or state, on how all these items that I'm talking about would look like in terms of like how your expenses would look like. So uh, that's really, I think, the best course of action for all, for any of you that aren't here in the United States. There's a lot of options, but you can narrow it down, and your assignee can help you out with it. All right. The last thing, and very important as well, is of course your savings and emergency fund. So emergency fund, like I said, when I started here in the U.S., budgeting wasn't one of the things that I'm used to doing, and I'm really guilty of this. Didn't have any emergency funds in my budgeting profile, and that unfortunately, it came to bite me in certain cases. When something untoward happened that I didn't expect. I didn't have money set aside to, it could be like a healthcare issue, right? It could be a work issue, right? That you need money on. So just make sure to set aside emergency fund savings. Normally, it's advisable to have like 3 to 6 months worth of emergency funds set aside. So if, for example, you usually spend, for example, like $2,000 a month for expenses, if you can set aside 3 months worth, so 2 times 3, that's 6,000 worth of money that you don't touch, and you will only touch during emergency situations, that's ideal. So again, it would depend on your life situation, right? If you have a bigger family, maybe you would need a bigger emergency fund. If you have a family member that maybe has, I had this family member who had I had this whole healthcare professional who had a family member who had a medical issue. So that being the case, she really made sure that she had savings set aside for this family member. So it really depends on your personal situation. So uh, I know I didn't speak of like very specific dollar terms in these buckets, but I hope it's helpful just in terms of like knowing these categories, knowing these items, because I think that's the first step, right? Like if you come in here in the US and you don't even think about insurance, you'll be caught by surprise of how much you have to spend for insurance, right? You come in here and you don't think about childcare, and you have a toddler, for example, then you'll be caught by surprise. So I hope at the minimum, at least puts it in your radar, and gives you time to research as well. And like I said, go to your assignee, and your assignee will really help you dig deeper in these specific expense categories. Okay, so a couple of more things that I want to talk about in terms of your financial planning as you prepare to come here to the US. And this part, I would say, is one of those, I hate to use the word neglected, but I would say things that most of the healthcare professionals sometimes forget to think about as they prepare for their move here to the US. Now, when you come here to the US, there is there's a gap between the time that you arrive in the US and the time that you actually start. Unfortunately, in my many years experience here in healthcare cell, the fastest I've seen someone to start working from the time they arrive is, I would say, 2 weeks. But I have seen people have to wait 3 months before they're able to start work, and that's for a number of reasons that they can start. A lot of it has to do with credentialing and certification. Your as a healthcare professional, your profession is highly regulated here in the US. So there's a lot of like certification requirements that needed for you to start. So in that time frame that you can't work, right, you have to plan for that because there's no money coming in. So in this segment, we want to let you know how much you want to save up before you even come here to the US. Okay, so these are just guideline amounts, but I'll divide it into two segments, two buckets. One are individuals without independence, so you're coming here on your own here in the US. We would suggest around $2,500 or $2,500 to around $3,000 worth of savings, cash in hand that you have saved up. for a period of a month of wait. So if you are gonna wait a month before you start, then you probably need this much amount of money. Now, of course, if you get an indication from your assignee, right, that oh, you're probably gonna wait 2 months or 3 months, then adjust accordingly, right? So maybe you gotta bump that amount even more, right? So again, your the one that's working with you, your assignee, it could be your IPA or IDA, is very key in this matter. Always communicate with them, especially when you're about to come here to the U.S. in terms of like how much you have to wait before you start. How long is it going to take for you to get licensed or get certified in your particular state, so you know the time frame. Okay, and then the other bucket is if you have dependents with you. So if you have dependents with you, of course, that number goes up, right? In our experience, you would need around $4,000 to $6,000 for a month wait. So again, same thing. If you have any indication from your assignee or from your research about your state or your state licensure that it would take longer, then adjust it accordingly. One thing I have to mention though is if you're bringing money, and money can be in any form. It can be cash, it can be checks or whatever. You We advise to have it under 10,000, because anything under 10,000, you might run into issues in the border. There are laws that talks about bringing money more than $10,000. So just make sure you're aware of that. But like I said, it's very important to prepare for that gap between the time you arrive here in the U.S. and the time you work. So, and the last thing that I wanted to discuss is about no one of the last things I want to discuss is the cost of living by region. There are differences, like I mentioned already, in terms of the cost of living per depending on the location that you're going. So these are two locations that we have made as an example today. You can see here, first is Des Moines, Iowa, and the other one is Kearney, Nebraska. The the reason why we put these two as an example for today is they're very different areas. Okay, Des Moines, Iowa is quite urban. There's more, I would say, public transportation options. Still not many, but a lot more than Kearney, Nebraska. Okay, we have facilities that we're partnered with in these locations, so these can be your options. But as you can see, I won't go each and every one of these items anymore, but you can see there's a stark difference, right, in terms of the expenses, the average expenses for these two areas. It can range from like a $50 difference to a couple of $100 difference, right, for each item. So, like I said, when I was discussing about the big buckets of expenses, make sure to discuss this with your IDAs and your IPAs, because they will be able to tell you like these specific amounts. If you were planning already to go to Des Moines, then this is great information for you all. And from here, like I said, you can plan out like, okay, how far do I need to live from my facility? Like what's the cost of the car that I need to purchase, right? Because that would determine my monthly car payments, right? What's my budget for housing, right? Do I live in a house that's close to the facility or far from the facility? Because that would determine my transportation costs, right? Do I get a big car or a small car? Because a big car might cost more in insurance, right? So these are some of the guidelines that you will think of. But like I said, the location matters. Like if you go to Kearney, Nebraska, it could be cheaper, right? But you also have to think about the facility that you're going, right? Schools in your location. So there's a lot of considerations, but just know that there's very big differences depending on which location you're wanting to go to. All right. So I want to end with some practical ways to save money and to cut costs. I know there's a lot of like information there that you saw, like in terms of just the buckets of expenses that you're going to spend on when you come here to the US. But here are some practical ways to, to help you out to cut those costs. So one thing is, take a look at your subscriptions. And if you have subscriptions that you're not using, feel free to cancel them, right? We're in a world wherein, the media that we consume can come from different sources, and each of those sources sometimes require subscriptions, right? We pay a couple of bucks to Disney, for example. We pay a couple of bucks to Netflix, and then we don't realize it. Those things add up. So make sure you know all of your subscriptions that you pay for, and cancel those that you're not using. Okay. The second thing, and it's quite, I would say, very popular here in the United States. One thing that I was not also used to when I came here is rewards programs. So make sure, when you're shopping, even when you're grocery shopping, a lot of the grocery stores here, or a lot of the shops here in the US, have their own reward programs. So if you're loyal to certain stores, you'll get rewards for that. You'll get cash back for that. So take advantage of those. So these are things, like I said, that we take for granted because it didn't exist. For example, for me, when back in my home country. So make sure to take advantage of these reward programs. Uh, Always compare like utility providers. The good thing with here in the US, you have options in terms of utilities. So depending on which area you're in, you can compare, the cost, whether it's for gas, electricity, for water, whatever it is, for trash collection. You can compare them. It's as if you're comparing like airline prices. It's that way of shopping. So that's a good part of it. So choose what's most appropriate for you, what you need, and also what saves you money. All right. The two other things, the fourth thing is actually a big savings item for me. Try to prep your meals at home. One of the biggest expenses that I have personally is eating out and going out and dining in restaurants. So if you could, spend time, cook at home, bring your lunch with you when you go to work, that's a big cost savings. And also similar if you have dependents, if you have kids, although some schools would have free lunches depending on which location you're going to, but the meal prepping really helps a lot. And then last thing, automate your savings. Sometimes we get caught up, paying this bill, this bill, and we forgot about, oh my goodness, I used up all my money and I didn't save anything. Like if you can really set the discipline of, okay, I'm going to set aside like 5%, or let's say as small as $100, right? But you make it consistent and you have a discipline to do that, then that would help you in the long run. And you'll realize, oh my goodness, I have money that I set aside and I don't have to worry about any emergent events that happen in the future. So I hope this helps out, as you plan for your arrival, or you coming here to the US. Like I said, number one is really take control of your budget. The last thing you want to happen for you is, you just write checks, you spend money here and there, and it gets out of control. Okay, make sure to take control of your budget. Be intentional about it. List it. If you have to create a spreadsheet. Okay, I'm divulging a little bit about what I do personally. But if you have to create your own spreadsheet or write it down in paper, that would be great. Second thing is, like a big item is really preparing for the time that you will be not at work when you come here to the US. Make sure to plan for that. While you're not here in the US, make sure to plan for that. And then last thing I want to end with, everything that I've told you about, these are things that you can discuss, like I said, with your current assignee. Whether you were with an IPA or an IDA or with an IES, that person can help you out in all these items. They can, like I said, dig deeper into each of these buckets and tell you specific and answer like specific questions that you have in terms of like, how much do I spend for my childcare? How much do I spend for transportation for the specific location? So make sure to communicate with them, and we'll gladly support you in all of these. So thank you for this time. And Courtney, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Joel. You answered a lot of the questions that were coming into the chat with all the information that you covered in this segment on budgeting. We did get a question in from Gabriel about if there is a website where they can use to stimulate the costs according to the state that they're going to. And I thought that this was an interesting question and, a good tool that they might be able to use. Do you want to elaborate what tools we provide to our nurses in order to help them kind of plan for the cost according to the state that they're going to?
Yeah, there are websites. There's actually several. The names are skipping my mind right now. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but your assignee will know exactly what those websites are. But they can be as specific as by state and by city. So that's something that basically, rest assured that information is out there. It's not information that's not readily available. So make sure to just, like I said, connect with your assignee and mention the cities that you're looking at, and then again, mention your life situation, and based on like what we talked about already in terms of like the big buckets, mention that to your assignee. Okay, this is what's important to me. I need childcare for my kids. I need I'm not really a good driver. I want to do public transportation. So mention those big items for you, like important items to you, and you can work together using these tools that your assignee has to create I would say, a more personalized budget for your situation.
And with these websites too, you can typically put in your income and it'll automate and show you the average cost of what rent would be in that city or state, what the average utility cost, transportation, groceries, gas. So it is definitely helpful when you're planning your move, depending on what city you're ending up in. We also had a really good question from Mary, and it seemed like a popular one because it did receive a lot of reactions to it as well. And I think this is, insurance with my family members during the 3 years of contract.
Courtney, can you say that last part again? You cut off a little bit.
Yeah. Mary had asked, will I be given medical insurance together with my family members during the 3 years of my contract?
That's a great question, Mary. Like I said, in the buckets of expenses, health insurance is one of those big buckets. Now, we are all fortunate that one of the long list of benefits that we have here in Healthcare Cell is a very comprehensive health insurance plan. So, again, the specifics of that you can discuss with your assignee, but we have coverage in terms of like our health insurance, and it's something that that information you can get for your assignee, and you can really estimate like how your dependents can be covered. And yeah, it's wonderful. I had healthcare professionals who have kids. Have healthcare professionals have even like given birth here in the United States. So a lot of those life circumstances have been covered under our benefits. So we'll take care of you in that regard.
Yeah. And, again, as part of our full circle of support, Joel's team really wants to help you with that transition. And that means explaining, the insurance that is going to be provided to you and your family members and the options that you have when it comes time to enrolling in your benefits. All right. And then we did have a last question, which is just a good reminder. I'm glad that you asked, Gloria, if there will be a recorded version of this meeting made available to you. And as always, these are recorded and they will be sent out. So in case you joined late, you're not able to stay for the full broadcast, or maybe it just seems like a lot of information and you want to be able to watch it again, you will get a recorded version sent out to you. So not to worry, if you need to watch it again, you'll be able to use that link. Well, thank you so much, Joel. This was so informative. I think I learned a thing or two about budgeting, and I might go back to my budgeting plan and reevaluate it. So hopefully our audience was able to learn just as much, if not more than I did. But I appreciate you taking the time to go over a budgeting plan with everyone that's online today. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. So we are going to move on to our next segment now that we've covered budgeting and, life outside of work in the United States. So we are going to talk about what to expect during your orientation once you start working as a nurse in the United States. So we have two members of our Quinn team, so our Quality Improvement Nursing team. I'm going to be joined by Ashton and Brad. And they are going to walk you through how orientation works in the U.S., what you can expect, and how to set yourself up for long-term success. So I'm going to pass the mic off to Ashton and Brad so they can give you all the information about nursing in the USA. Oh, Ashton, I don't think that we are able to hear you. Your microphone might be muted.
There we go. Thank you. And so, yes, thank you, Courtney. And so, yeah, everything that Joel shared, amazing information, and it was a lot. So I know if I was the one watching this broadcast, I would definitely jump on the train with watching the recording because such good information. But yeah, so as part of today's talk about nursing in the U.S., we're going to talk about orientation. And so basically to help set you up for success. So orientation does vary slightly based on, the specialty and the facility. And so, but typically the general plan of what orientation does include the clinical training, there's classroom training, and mentorship. And so today we'll go into more detail about the common challenges we find our candidates facing. And Brad will go ahead and kick us off with talking about some of the things that we can expect.
Thanks, Ashton. Thank you all for joining us today. So we're going to start off by talking about a little bit of the expectations of orientation in general. So we're going to kind of cover this at a very high level because expectations vary, as Ashton kind of stated, from unit to facility to specialty to individual departments. The length of orientation, depending on the setting that you would be working in, can look differently. This is a great opportunity when you are engaging in interviews with facilities for potential assignments to ask that question. Ask the question of what is the orientation process going to look like for me on this unit, and what does that outline look like? This will give you a better understanding and a more specific to that unit about what orientation is going to look like. Unfortunately, it's a little bit hard to kind of give an overall general of all nursing orientation. Some orientation, if you're in an OR, could be up to 6 months or to a year. Other orientation could be less, 8 to 10 weeks. It all varies in between, so it's really hard to put a set number on that. So it's very important for you to ask those specifics during the interview so that you have an understanding of what to expect when you arrive and kind of the timeline on the unit that you'll be working at. And so, Ashton, why don't you talk about kind of how the orientation once you arrive looks like and when you're working with a preceptor?
Yeah, perfect. And so I love that you touched on the interview question. Like, absolutely. Ask that at the end of your interview, what their orientation would look like. I love that. And so, yes, during the unit, specific part of your orientation, you'll be assigned a preceptor. And so you will be one-on-one. So just you and your preceptor during the entire shift. And that's with every shift during orientation. As you continue through orientation, your preceptor may be able to kind of back off a little bit to encourage that independence, right? And so you may be kept with the same preceptor through the entire orientation. You may bounce around to a few of them. It really depends on the availability and kind of how that unit typically does their orientation. And so it is really important to offer your feedback to your preceptor, to your manager. We are human, right? Different personalities, different teaching styles, different learning styles. And so it's really critical that if you feel your preceptor may not be a good fit for your needs in the learning aspect, speak up, right? Communicate that so changes can be made. Just because, your relationship with the preceptor can really influence the progress you make. And so definitely don't hesitate to speak up with how you're feeling with your preceptor. In addition to preceptors being a possible challenge, there are a few more that we will talk through today. And so the goal of our segment today is to really just encourage you to prepare and help yourself, right? Be successful. One of the amazing things that we have for our candidates is the Resource Center. And so it is just full of hidden gems that you have access to. And so if you do have this access, because you are in our program with Passport USA and Healthcare SL, definitely take a look. And so definitely worth the time looking through all the great information that we have there. And so we're going to head into kind of the common challenges that we see. And so again, these are meant to, not scare you, but definitely begin thinking about ways that you can help yourself be successful and prepare for your journey here to working as a nurse in the U.S. And so the first common challenge is information overload. And so when you first get here to the U.S., right, you're adjusting to a new environment, a new city, new country, different culture, but also work specific. You're meeting a lot of new people. You're meeting your coworkers. You're meeting leadership. You are even, getting more comfortable with your international employee supervisor like Joel. So again, lots of new things, new policies, and the procedures at your facility, supplies, even technology, the technology of computer systems and equipment that you may not have been exposed to in your home countries. And so a lot of adjustment and change. So with that comes with emotional ups and downs, right? You get here, you're so excited to be here, you just want to get started. Sometimes reality hits you, right? And so we do have programs available for our working candidates as part of our full circle of support. So like Joel was talking about, the financial aspect of our full circle of support. We also have mental health support. So definitely, know that you're supported fully, not just professionally, but also like personally. And so in addition to the IES or whoever your assignee is, you also have a team of nurses like Brad and myself. It's a team full of nurses with different backgrounds here to support you. And so, we love what we do. And so I'll kind of hand it over to Brad to continue talking about, the other common challenges we find our people facing.
Thanks, Ashton. And I'm going to second what Ashton said. You guys have access to a full clinical team here. The purpose of the clinical team being here is to be a support system for you and a resource for you. We're always willing and happy to get on a call on the line and just have a conversation, talk nurse to nurse about what you're experiencing and going through. And some of those relate to some of these challenges that you may find during your orientation. So I'm going to touch base on a couple of ones that we hear more frequently than not, and that's not to say that everybody experiences them, but they boil down to a couple kind of buckets, as we like to call them. One of the biggest things is time management and prioritization. The healthcare system here in the U.S. may look much different than the healthcare system you're coming from your home country. And so the expectations and the workload may look a little bit different. And adjusting to those differences is one of the things that sometimes you may find challenging. It's not something that can't be overcome. It's not something that can't be learned, but it's something to be aware of. Where you work today may look very different from where you work when you come to the U.S. Likewise with that, critical thinking and proactiveness. Nurses in the U.S. share a lot of autonomy. We have the expectation to be proactive and think ahead without having to be directed to do that. That is another thing that we at times see adjustment with. And with time and experience, all nurses go through a growing period when it comes to that nursing autonomy. And then the last thing that I'm going to kind of touch base on is confidence. You're starting a whole new lifestyle, not only in a new country, but a new workplace, a new hospital system, a new healthcare environment. That can seem overwhelming, and you may think to yourself, do I have the confidence to do this? Have faith in the hard work that you have put in, past the NCLEX. You've done all the steps that you've needed to prove that you have the ability to be a nurse here, and have that full confidence in yourself. And as always, the clinical team here is here to support you and provide any resources available. As you can kind of see on the screen, kind of a little graphic of kind of the process here. We're all going to learn a little bit. We're going to practice, and then we're going to do it. And you can take that to all aspects of nursing, especially when you're experiencing new areas that you may not have experienced in your previous work. So I'll turn this over to Ashton to kind of wrap up some of these challenges that you may see.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and one thing that when you are having some difficulties in that process of, learning, practice, and doing is to communicate, right? This includes with your coworkers, that includes patients, families, other departments in the hospitals or facilities, even the doctors, nurse practitioners, you just need to be able to communicate well. And so, that kind of stresses the importance of practicing your English, right? Before coming here to the US, English is obviously a very well-known language. And so the more you practice in your home country before getting here will really tremendously help you. There are different accents, even here in the US, depending on where you're kind of located. And so just kind of keep that in mind. Additionally, speaking up, right? Kind of like I said before, ask questions, share your thought processes to your preceptor, your ideas, right? So they can kind of help navigate kind of either you're on the right track or like, oh, no, we're going to kind of go this way instead. So that's part of the, the learning process, right? No one can read your mind, right? So if you have feelings of unsure or second guessing yourself, just needing validated, right? That you are thinking on the right track, you are doing something correctly, speak up and ask them that. And so part of that also is feedback, right? When you are being taught something, you are learning, that comes with feedback, both positive, but also areas of improvement that's needed. And so being able to take that feedback is crucial to your progress, but also to your professional development. And so being able to take that criticism professionally, right? Sometimes we can take it a little too personally, but remember, you are an employee, right? You are a nurse as part of their team. And so they need to make sure that all team members are functioning together. And so try not to take that personally or towards your character or your pride. That's not what the feedback is meant to be there for. It's to make sure that everyone can work together well. And so as part of that feedback, sometimes the preceptors may have difficulty giving that feedback. And so as one way that you can take control of that is to ask at the end of your shifts, right? Ask them for feedback. Ask them what you did really well during that shift, and what areas you need to continue to improve in. We all have areas of improvement, no matter how long you've been in nursing. And so there's always something that you should be searching for to be better in, right? What's important is being better than what you were the day before. And so that's the goal here. And so, but like Brad said, always remember how far you've come, right? Remember where you started, and that can really, really help your confidence, and just be proud of yourself, right? Motivate yourself. And so I'll hand it back over to Brad to kind of wrap us up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashton makes a great point. This is something when I speak to nurses that are in the orientation process, I always share with them, make sure that you reach out to your preceptor the last 5-10 minutes of each shift and ask those questions. Tell me what went well today and tell me what we need to work on for next time. That is a vital, important conversation to be had so that everybody understands and knows where you are at in the progress. As Ashton said, every day you want it to be better than the day prior, and you want to work, and it's like walking up the steps, and eventually you'll get to that independence. And when that independence comes, what does that look like for you? At the end of the day, you're not completely cut off. You're not completely isolated. You still have resources available to you. Your preceptor should be around. You should have a charge nurse that you can communicate with, ask questions. You're still going to have a support system there for you. That support system will be there as long as needed. Being a nurse for about 20 years now, there are many times that I would have to go to senior nurses, even in my latest years of bedside, where there was something new or something I didn't understand, and I would have to ask for advice. I would have to ask for, can you show me how to do this? At the end of the day, asking questions is okay. It's actually encouraged. Have that open communication. It's not a judgment of, well, do you know how to be a nurse because you're asking questions? That's not how it works here. Asking questions is very encouraged. Not asking questions is kind of seen as, hey, why aren't they asking questions? Because everybody asks questions. So be comfortable in having that open communication with them. When you get to that independence, it might be a little exciting. It might be a little bit scary. Like, hey, I'm really on my own. It goes back to what I said and Ashton followed up on. Believe in yourself, have that confidence, and know what you have done to get to this point. You have worked so hard and accomplished so much. Be proud of that and shine. Go on and do that great nursing work that you guys can have. Overall, there's always a support system here within Healthcare Cell International if you have questions that you want to follow up with. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, Ashton, and thanks, Brad. We did just have a couple questions. Other than that, I do think that you guys did a great job at answering the questions as they were kind of coming through the chat, whether you knew that you were doing it or not. But I want to highlight Rebecca's question here. She had asked, is one allocated one preceptor throughout the orientation period?
Yep, I'll take this one. So, Rebecca, that's a great question. And this kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation where we talked about it really is going to depend on facility and unit kind of placement. Some facilities, you may have a preceptor for the whole duration of your orientation. Other facilities may start you off with one preceptor, have them for a period of time, and then transition to a second preceptor. When it comes to nursing, there's more than one right way to do things, right? As long as we're within the policies and procedures of the facility, knowing different people's approach is a good thing to learn. So isolating to just one preceptor may not always be ideal for the unit that you're based on. This would be another great question to ask during that interview process and understanding what that orientation would look like for you on that specific unit. So I hope that helps answer that question for you.
Yes,
well
I
said,
think
Brad.
it did. Yeah, definitely well said. Thank you so much, Brad.
Absolutely.
And then one last question here. All right. So Ferlita had asked, is the orientation with a preceptor takes about a month period there? So maybe we can help clarify how long orientation typically lasts in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. And so orientation does vary. So there isn't a set timeline. It really depends on the specialty. It depends on the person's progress, right? And so that's kind of hard to answer specifically, but it really is, dependent on the person, but also the specialty and the unit, or department, like Brad mentioned earlier in this segment.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I just want to highlight what Ariel said, because I couldn't have said it better myself, but she said, thank you, Ashton and Bradley, for having your time explaining regarding the orientation with us. This helps us to understand the benefits of having the orientation in order to be confident. And I agree. I think the information that you guys provided today is going to set our nurses up for success once they arrive in the U.S. and hopefully feel confident to ask questions and in order to be better the next day once they start at their U.S. assignment. So thank you so much for going into nursing into the USA and providing everyone that is joining us today with a little more information and some words of advice.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So we are going to move on to one of our favorite segments. And we've done a lot of talk today about different cities and states in the US, especially in our budgeting segment. So we are going to talk about our featured location for this month. I know a lot of you are joining from different parts of the world, so you might be wondering, where am I going to end up once I am in the United States? And we are going to highlight West Virginia this month. So this is a state that offers, natural beauty, kind of a slower pace of life, a lower cost of living that really allows you to get the most out of your paycheck. So we are going to hear directly from one of our client partners in an interview that was done by our account manager, Bonnie, who is going to be joining me today. And they're going to share about what makes living and working in West Virginia so special. So I'm going to introduce you to Bonnie, our incredible account manager here at Health Carousel, and we are going to talk a little bit more about West Virginia. Hi, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here today. Excited to dive into everything West Virginia has to offer. It is a beautiful and very affordable place to live, and I think you'll be surprised by just how much it has going for it.
Perfect. Well, I know all of you really enjoy our quadrant game. So we are going to start off and play a game. And I want all of you to drop in the chat which quadrant on the screen that you think West Virginia is located in. So do you think it's located in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4? And I'm just going to give everybody a minute to put in their guesses. All right, I'm slowly starting to see some answers coming in, and it looks like that most of you are very familiar with the U.S. map because you guys are guessing it correctly. All right, well, as you guessed, it is in quadrant 2. All right, so we are going to make it a little bit smaller. So now you can see the quadrants have moved, and I want you to take a guess on the new updated map on where you think West Virginia falls. All right, you guys are answering very quick, but like Sheila said, it is in quadrant 4. I am actually impressed with your guys' guesses and how well you guys know the U.S. map. All right, awesome. Well, since you guys are familiar with it and you know where West Virginia is at, Bonnie is going to be able to share a little more information about West Virginia and all the nice things that it has to offer that you might not be familiar with.
Awesome. So which I know has been a huge topic on this call. But let's explore the climate a little bit more. This is a peaceful, affordable state with a much slower pace of life. And one of my favorite things about West Virginia is you get to experience all 4 seasons. For international healthcare professionals starting a new life in the U.S., West Virginia will offer comfort, community, and year-round opportunities to recharge outdoors. As you'll hear in the interview later, there is a lot to explore outdoors in West Virginia. So whether you're going solo or with your family, there's a lot of space to thrive. I want to jump in with winter. So if you've ever dreamed of experiencing a true winter with mountain views, lots of snow, kind of a slower seasonal rhythm, this is a time where families love to gather indoors. Local towns will celebrate winter festivals, and the mountains are absolutely beautiful, turned into a snowy playground where you can enjoy lots of skiing and resorts. Moving on to spring. Spring in West Virginia is all about fresh beginnings. The forests start to bloom, rivers swell from the snow melt, and it's a perfect time to enjoy scenic trails, parks, and weekend outings with your family. One of the favorite locations to visit in the spring is Cooper's Rock State Forest, which offers incredible views of the Cheat River Gorge, peaceful trails, and some of the best spring hiking and rock climbing in the region. Next up is my personal favorite, which would be summer. Summer in West Virginia is actually quite warm. Again, I think you truly get to experience all 4 seasons with a high of up to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's an average, so it can get even a little warmer than that. But this is a perfect time to spend sunny days outdoors, relaxing by the water. It's a season full of festivals. In America, we love to have cookouts and lake days with our friends and loved ones. And finally, this is another popular one, especially in the mountains, is fall. And that's really something special in West Virginia. The leaves change to brilliant colors, the air is crisp, and communities really come alive with lots of seasonal events and traditions. And I do want to touch on real quick, and I don't know if we have it up yet, but the cost of living, which I know, again, we've been touching on this a lot during this call. Let's talk about another important part of settling in. That's how far your paycheck will go. So we're going to break down the cost of living and why this state is such a financially smart place to start your U.S. journey. As you'll notice here, the cost of living in West Virginia is much lower than New York and California, probably the 2 most well-known states in the United States. They offer international nurses a more affordable and comfortable lifestyle. One of the biggest advantages is the cost of housing. Renting a 1-bedroom apartment here usually costs much less than in larger cities, giving you the chance to save more and spend on things that truly matter to you and your family. Additionally, equally important, as Joel touched on, grocery and food prices. Everyday items like milk, eggs, and vegetables tend to be more affordable in West Virginia. This makes it easier to eat well and to stick to your budget. Transportation costs, which I know we saw a couple of questions about that specifically in the chat during Joel's segment. But whether you drive or use public transportation, you'll likely spend less in West Virginia than you would in more crowded cities. The gas prices are lower, and if you're driving, traffic is usually much lighter, which will save you time and money. Another thing that West Virginia has to offer is plenty of low-cost ways to enjoy your free time, which maybe might not be on those absolute needs, but definitely in your wants. From hiking trails to local festivals, there's always something fun to do, and it won't hit your budget too hard. Wrap up, I'm just going to say finally that West Virginia does combine natural beauty with real financial advantages. From experiencing all 4 seasons to living comfortably on a budget, it's a state where you can slow down, settle in, and start building a life you love. So to bring everything we've shared to life, we want you to hear directly from people who are living and working in West Virginia right now. In this pre-recorded interview, our client partner will share what they love most about their community and why they enjoy working with international nurses like you. So I wanted to just jump in with some questions here. So anyone who wants to chime in can. What do you find unique about living in West Virginia compared to other states?
Well, I'll start. I've lived in Morgantown off and on in West Virginia pretty much my entire life. I've left a few times, but I always end up coming back. And I think it's a mix of things, but for the most part, it's definitely the people. There are some places in the world where your car breaks down on the side of the road, you're worried about getting looted and some sort of crime happening. But here, within 5-10 minutes, someone's pulling over to help you out. And I think that's just that mentality of helping your neighbor and being a community is something that we've been able to reserve really well here in West Virginia. On top of that, you already talked about the beautiful landscapes. We have world-class whitewater rafting, skiing, hiking, mountain biking. It is a really beautiful place to live.
Love that. I just want to add, it is a little secret because coming from different states, right? Pennsylvania, New York, Islander, Jamaica, that's also picturesque. There's plenty of beautiful places in the world, but I think what's unique about West Virginia, it is truly a hidden secret, and their slogan, almost heaven, that is accurate. Like, you really do feel like you are in a little secret hideaway that no one really knows about. It's a well-kept secret, and it is just gorgeous here. And the people, like Guy mentioned, are truly what make it unique, to your question.
I love that. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Let's see. What are some of the must-visit places? Guy, I know you already mentioned in Latoya the scenery. What are your favorite spots to visit?
Oh, well, I could go statewide or I could go just local. Even here, Dorsey's Knob right here is the highest point in the county. It's gorgeous. You can see the whole town and the big long mountainscape there. I think the New River Gorge Bridge is definitely a must visit. Whether you're going to go for Bridge Day and maybe rappel from the side or jump off with a parachute or be on the whitewater rapids underneath of it. I think it at least used to be the largest single span bridge in the world. It is absolutely gorgeous. And there are a ton of different attractions, but a lot of them are hidden secrets. And a lot of it is just exploring and being able to find these hidden gems, whether you want to go to Blackwater Falls or up to our state forest at Cooper's Rock. We have this beautiful overlook where you can see counties around. And it's particularly gorgeous in the fall because all the leaves are changing. We have a beautiful autumn here, and it's really picturesque. I've been to several weddings up there, and people really want to capture that moment.
That's awesome. And I've actually been whitewater rafting on the New River, so I can attest to that. That was a pretty amazing experience. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I would say Valley Falls in Fairmont, West Virginia. I think it's like a hidden gem. A lot of people do have weddings there, but if you go there, the water and the scenery there is phenomenal. Like, there are hidden waterfalls there. You can hike. We've set up our hammocks there and read books. They have an outdoor fire like every Friday night. You can go there and they let you like roast s'mores, things like that. So I think Valley Falls is just as pretty as Cooper's Rock. I feel like it's definitely worth seeing.
Well, you had me at s'mores, that's for sure. Let's see here. Okay, so this is a good question. And I know, Guy, you already touched a little bit. Latoya, you did too, on kind of the welcoming community that you can expect in Morgantown. For families moving into the area, can you talk a little bit about the quality of the schools?
I can. I currently have 2 children that are in the schools in West Virginia. And I feel like because it is like a family culture in the state, I feel like they get such good education because the teachers there actually care. They stay connected with the parents. I feel like they are the first to reach out to me if something's going on or there's something they need. I feel like they're so good at communicating because they still have that with their family that usually stays in West Virginia. So that's not something uncommon for them. I also feel like the schools in West Virginia are a little bit smaller. That way your patient or your kid gets like more one-on-one time with the teacher. And then the sports here are crazy. We have the WVU Mountaineers, but even the high school sports are so competitive. They teach your kids, those morals that you want your kid to have when they're adults, that things are competitive, but we stay trustworthy. We're kind. I feel like that gets instilled with your kids in West Virginia at such a young age. It's so easy then to use those same things when you move into adulthood. So I think the schools are top notch in West Virginia.
I love that. Latoya, I saw you nodding as well. I know you've got a couple little ones.
Yeah, I have 3 boys in wide range, right? So when we first moved here, my son went to the high school here, and I have a 2-year-old and an infant as well. And she is absolutely right. The sports, he was able to continue the competitive soccer world. He did basketball, the education. He does have like learning needs, and they were super supportive, gave him the one-on-one that he needed, and he successfully graduated and just went right into college here. And that also, there's huge support and financial support. So it's not a huge burden on families. The state gives support as well as the schools, tons of scholarships and grants available for students to succeed and not be in debt. So from all spectrums, I mean, from my toddler all the way to my college student, it's been a great experience. And honestly, he was just a number where we were. He really built a community here. And we have no one here. We have no family, no friends besides my work family and friends. So being able to know that he was able to build a community and have that bond and relationship and structure, and the education is top notch because we're strict, and being a Jamaican mom, like, you better come home with all A's and I need to know that you're doing great. So, you know, the fact that the education was top notch, it was really a good experience for us.
Well, my mom's not Jamaican, but she sounded a lot like that when I was growing up too. But I love that. I love that community. I love the support from the state financially. I didn't know about that. That's huge, to be able to have that financial security. So let's see. Let's jump into one last one here. What is your favorite season in West Virginia and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. That is a really tough one because they're all so good for different reasons.
Probably hard to whitewater raft in the winter, right?
Yeah, you're not going to whitewater raft in the winter, but you might go to Snowshoe Resort, which is the best skiing around. You know, they have fast lifts and the mountains are great there. Fall, again, is gorgeous here. I've never seen a prettier fall. I've been all over the world. I've never seen a prettier fall than here in West Virginia. It's a great time to go hike. The weather's perfect. It's like 50, 60 degrees, so you're not going to overheat, and you just get to take in all this amazing scenery. And who doesn't love spring? Because everything's coming back to life. The winters do get a little bit long towards the end of them. You're ready to go out and see your friends and see your neighbors. And that's just another great thing. Even just this last few days, it's finally nice out. And I feel like I kind of have to re-meet my neighbors again because we've all been cooped up for the last couple of months. But everybody is so friendly, willing to come out, talk to you, see how you've been, watching all the little kids just grow up, and really is a blossoming community. I think just in my neighborhood, I've got like 12 kids running around here. It's like a whole herd of them.
That's awesome.
So I think that families are very comfortable here, and it really doesn't matter the season. They're all unique and wonderful in their own way.
Yeah, I would agree. And Alicia, you can go next, but the fall is probably my favorite. I'm a little biased because it's also my birthday month in October, but it is breathtakingly gorgeous. And there's a lot of mountains and hills, right? And so the views that you see in all the different colors, I mean, they're just beautiful. And I feel like every year there's a new color that pops out from the trees, but it's just gorgeous. So fall is definitely one of my favorites. And spring right now, like I mentioned, it is just the cool, crisp air between like the 60s and 70s. And then you're excited because, you know, you can start to go on the boats. Because when we first moved here, we were not outdoorsy people at all. But for some reason, Morgantown and West Virginia makes you an outdoors person. I don't know what it is, but we were out on the lake at Cheat Lake. You know, we're going to Tigard, which is like the prettiest blue of a lake I've ever seen in my life. And then we're jet skiing. I mean, it is just fun to go on those walks in the woods and trails. There's so many of them that going into summer, spring and summer, I'm excited because I get to do all of that and be outside and just enjoy the beauty of it. I'm never a winter person, so you'll never hear me, no matter how fun winter is out here in Morgantown. I'm just not going to prescribe.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. And I love that you brought up the water, because I think a lot of people think of West Virginia as like a landlocked state. And there's a certain image I think that comes up when you think of West Virginia. So jet skiing, like you kind of have the best of both worlds there.
I was going to say summer, because I feel like I agree with LaToya. I'm not an outdoors person, but I live in West Virginia, and I think in West Virginia, we're known for a lot of farms. So I live on a very small farm. I have a few farm animals, but I feel like you get the best of both worlds. During the summer, you can be out on like in the farmland where you have animals. We go to all kind of zoos. They have festivals, fairs, all kind of food. But then I feel like if you come into the city, like into the Morgantown, you have all kind of things going on with the college, but you have like Cooper's Rock that's close. You could go fishing. You can like all kind of things. So I feel like summer definitely brings all the people out where you go. There's so many. I feel like if you look up, something to do today, there's like 50 options to do during the summer of what you want to do. And I feel like too that you're so close to like Pittsburgh where you could go. We'd go to Picklesburg every year, so you could go to like Pickle Fest, all different kind of things. I feel like it's a good location to be able to go and experience things in other states as well. You're not too far away. West Virginia is so remote. I feel like people don't know that you could easily drive like 40 minutes and be in a different state to experience something else. So I know in the winter, we always travel. We go to Maryland because there's Deep Creek Lake there, and they have skiing and stuff there too. But we always go to snowshoe. That's like a yearly thing for us. But I feel like summer, you definitely get to see all the people. And I feel like you can't beat the view in the summer. Like you're hiking, you could see so many things.
Yeah, and I love that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, LaToya.
No, I was going to say a good point, because my husband's very city. Like he is all about city life, city living, and we don't get to miss it because Morgantown is a little college town, but it has like a lot of city things. And then Charleston, being 2 hours away, Pittsburgh is right there. Maryland, Washington, D.C. is not far. It's an easy drive to all of these things. So when he gets the little city itch, without the cost of the city, I was like, you can go drive and then come back to our peace little heaven over here. So it just all works out. And the summertime is like the key when we want to go do all of that to make that happen. It's a good point.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Alicia and LaToya, because I know that you guys are in the very northernmost part of the state, very close to larger metro areas. But even in Morgantown, there's really no lack for convenience. Any store shopping, if you want a small boutique, if you want a big box store, I remember we went out, we had dinner. It was like a cute little strip with all these great local restaurants. It didn't feel like I was in the middle of nowhere by any means. So much convenience and community and population right there with the college and everything. But then you had these like sweeping views when we were driving in and out that were just so gorgeous. So I really appreciate you guys all highlighting that. And that's really all I had for today.
All right. Well, thank you so much to Bonnie and our client partner for sharing so much information about West Virginia.
I think Courtney is having just a bit of an issue here, but that really wraps up our portion on West Virginia. Really appreciate our client partner for giving us a closer look of what it looks like. And I think from here, we're going to dive into this month's Visa Bulletin. All right. So I absolutely love that interview that we had with our client partner in West Virginia. It was so nice to hear more. I personally have never been to West Virginia, but now I think I might go because I think they really sold me on that location. I did see a couple questions coming in through the chat about, endorsing your license over in case you had your license issued in another state. And it seemed like a lot of you were asking this. So I just want to highlight that we do have an incredible licensing team that will help you with that process of endorsing your license over in case you do end up in West Virginia, but maybe you got a license in Texas. So no matter what state you go to, our licensing team will be able to assist you when it comes time to that endorsement process. So we are going to move on to our final segment,
We are going to talk about the Visa Bulletin, which I know you are all interested to hear an update. So I'm going to invite my colleague Elizabeth. She is our Associate Director of Immigration and Licensing to join me, so that way she can provide an update and help us understand the latest priority date movements and what this might mean for your immigration processing. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Courtney. Hi, everyone. Happy evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm so excited to join you again this month, and welcome to those who this is your first broadcast. If you don't know me, I am Elizabeth. I am the Associate Director of Immigration and Licensing. So nice plug for our licensing team earlier. We have a phenomenal licensing team who's always here to help you and walk you through any steps and questions you have with licensing for nursing in the U.S. So for this month, we have an update from the Visa Bulletin. As you may know, and if you don't, the Visa Bulletin is released by the Department of State once a year or once a month. That would be terrible if it was once a year. Once a month, about the middle of the month for the next month. So last week, the May Visa Bulletin came out. There's not a lot of change from this month, from April. The only movement we saw was for the EB3 India category. There was an advancement of about 2 weeks. Everything else, all the other categories, remained the same as the April Visa Bulletin. That's kind of not a surprise based on the way we've seen it trending this year. It does appear that, they're moving to a quarterly review basis. So as you may or may not know, the government's fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th. And this year in particular, they've been adjusting on a approximately a 3-month basis, so that in the effort to not run out of visas that are available. Every year there's 140,000 immigrant visas that are available, and that's based on the country. So if you're not familiar with the Visa Bulletin, you're looking at the EB3 category for registered nurses, and then you're going to look across the chart to see all chargeability: China, India, Mexico, Philippines. It's going to be based on your country of birth, not your country of citizenship. So there is a distinction there. It's based on your country of birth. And so if you're from China, you would look at the EB3 category, the third category, preference category under China, India, Mexico, Philippines. And then if you're born anywhere else in the world, not listed out there, you will fall under the all chargeability. So if you were born in Canada, you would look under all chargeability. And right now, Philippines, all chargeability also can be referred to as rest of world. And Mexico is sitting at January 1st, 2023. So you would need to have a priority date on or before January 1st, 2023 in order to be ready to go to your embassy interview to be considered current. India is April 15th, 2013, and China is November 1st, 2020 right now in the EB3 category. And as I mentioned, our registered nurses fall under the EB3 category. If you're not familiar with a priority date, if you don't have one, the way you achieve a priority date is to have an immigrant petition filed on your behalf, which is called the I-140. And once that has been submitted to USCIS, then that establishes your priority date. And once the petition is approved, it locks in that priority date and it secures it. It's your priority date for the remainder of your journey to the United States. It cannot change. It cannot be taken away from you. And then once you have that priority date locked in, then you just reference the Visa Bulletin in your country of birth and preference category. And we monitor that here on site, a healthcare cell, monthly. And we're always excited when we see movement.
Definitely. We are excited when we see movement. And I know when we provide the update on the Visa Bulletin, if the movement is, maybe not what you're expecting, know it can maybe feel discouraging, but by all means, look at it in a positive light, knowing that, and we've elaborated on this before, but it does give you time to prepare a little bit more. Joel talked about budgeting in the US. And after hearing everything that he had to say about budgeting, there's a lot that goes into it. So maybe use this time to save your money. That way, when you do make the transition over to the United States, that you are financially prepared and you feel confident in your finances and not feeling like, you don't have enough money saved up to prepare you. This is also a great time to practice your English. Serena, our employee of the month, mentioned to try and speak English as much as you can. So really use this time that maybe you're looking at as a waiting period as a time to improve your English. So again, that you are fully set up when you arrive in the United States. And we've just really highlighted throughout this entire broadcast about our full circle of support, and we are here to support you. We will not abandon you at all in any time of retrogression. If you have questions, please reach out to your current assignee, whether it be your IPA, your IDA, or, if you are in the US, your IES, and ask questions if you have concerns about anything related to retrogression or not. But this is a good time to help you prepare so that way you are feeling comfortable and confident when you make that move in the US. So save up your money, practice your English, spend time with your family, and don't lose hope and don't feel discouraged by any means. So this can definitely be a positive waiting period. Elizabeth, do you have any words of advice for our audience?
Yes, to just elaborate more, as you said, while you're waiting for your priority date to become current, there are many things that you can be doing. Gaining bedside experience is a very important one. We talked about, saving up your finances, as Joel had talked. It was mentioned a couple of times throughout the broadcast today of practicing your English. That's very important. And then again, getting that bedside experience and continuing to work during this waiting period. It's very important that you're prepared when you are, your priority date is starting to get close to being current. You want to make sure that you do have a U.S. client assignment secured so that when your priority date does become current and you are called for your embassy interview, you're able to go to that interview. And one way to ensure that you're going to get that client assignment is to continue keeping your skills sharp, working bedside, and doing everything that you can do so that you're going to have that client assignment. And then once you enter the U.S., your skills are still fresh and you have a smoother transition to practicing as an RN in the U.S. And then you can also use this time to prepare your documents that you're going to need to provide to the National Visa Center to be documentarily qualified, and making sure that you have everything that you need prepared and ready to go once your embassy interview becomes scheduled for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Elizabeth. And we did get a question in the chat, and I think it might just be informative. Josephina had asked, what does it mean employment-based? So what's the difference between the first, second, and third?
Yeah, so employment-based just means that you have an employer that is sponsoring you. So Health Carousel would be your employer sponsor. And the difference between the categories is really around the eligibility. So EB1, it kind of breaks down into 3 different categories, and some of them are outstanding researcher roles, going to be manager, intercompany transfer type, focus, EB1A, EB1B, EB1C. So really the top of the top, or very important manager type roles. EB2 is similar in EB3 in requirements in that it's employment based. It's based on a job that's being offered to you in the United States. EB2 requires a a professional degree like a master's degree, the job itself has to require that degree, not just that you hold that degree, the job has to require that degree. And it could be a bachelor's plus 5 years of experience within that position. However, again, it's based on what the job requires. And then EB3 is going to be any type of professional degree that requires like a bachelor's degree or less, but it still requires experience and a degree. So it's just the varying levels of what type of degree. But it's very important to know that these sponsorships are required on what the job requires, not necessarily what the candidate or the applicant has. You have to meet that job, but it's based on the requirements are based on the job itself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And Josephina, I hope that helped answer your question. I know many others were probably wondering the same thing. And I think Elizabeth did a really nice job of giving a clear explanation of the difference between those three. I am seeing a lot of questions come in the chat too about West Virginia. So we are going to share a link to our featured location pages. That way, those of you that are interested in learning more can use that link. And maybe, if we weren't able to answer a question today that you had about West Virginia, use that link and you'll be able to learn a little bit more and hopefully your question will be answered. Or if you had asked a question at any point during this broadcast, during the chat, and it wasn't answered, please reach out to your current assignee and make sure that you ask them. They'll be able to answer any questions that were not asked or that maybe we did not get to today. But it looks like we don't have as many questions coming in. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for providing that insightful update on the Visa Bulletin. And just to let you all know, your time will come. You will make it to the United States. Just keep your motivation, keep pushing through, and stay positive. I hope you all found this broadcast very informative. I know I did, and it was a pleasure being joined by all my colleagues who were able to cover so much information in all the segments that we had today. But I want to thank you for joining our April broadcast. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, or a wonderful evening, depending on what time it is, wherever you may be joining in from in the world. We look forward to seeing you all again next month. Have a lovely day. Bye.